Just like this blank sheet of paper, that's how it's happening for us all over the world today. It's the first day of a new year. It's blank, 365 days, nothing written. No names, no addresses, no positions, no achievements, no awards just yet. It's just you and us together, waking up this day to mark the start of gigantic happenings in our world, especially if we put in that extra effort. Happy New Year. The tone for our conversation today, your expectations, mine, that of Nigerians. But it's Francis who's done the background research. Let him bring forward what he finds.
While the beginning of every year comes with celebrations and stock-taking on successes and challenges made in the previous year, it is also a time for renewed hopes and expectations, a time to set goals, resolutions and expect to meet them by the end of the year. Nigerians are expecting a lot from political leaders being an election year.
My expectations are that Nigerians would read and accept the sincerity of the Buhari administration, leaving this legacy of a successful election outcomes that are acceptable, both sides, winner and loser. We are hoping that on May 29, 2023, we will have transfer of power from outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari to a successor whose election must be well accepted because it will follow due processes. It will be free, fair.
In 2023, I see a lot of dynamics changing in the country. There will be realignment of political forces. I see a lot of Nigerians having a better understanding of their country. I see Nigerians also in 2023 getting their priorities right. What I mean, asking questions, the relevant questions. I see a lot of Nigerians taking stock, especially young people. They want to take stock. They want to say yes, so they want to take ownership of certain things.
Nigeria is a country richly blessed with abundant natural and human resources that, if properly harnessed, can feed its people and export the surplus to other countries. Yet it is experiencing persistent food crisis, both in terms of quality and quantity. What should Nigerians expect in terms of the economy?
I think people live in silos most of the time in our own country. They don't seem to appreciate how well we are doing in spite of the economic difficulties that we face as a country. You know that a few days ago, Ghana stopped payments for foreign debts. What that means is that the economy has crashed and it is no longer capable now of attracting, because if you are not paying, nobody will lend money to you. On the other hand, if you see how well Nigerian economy is doing, you know that all of the economies of the world went into recession on account of the coronavirus pandemic, except China. And Nigeria was first or second globally to emerge, from corona pandemic-induced economic recession. It's a world record. So I think that if Nigerians would give 50% of the respect that our country deserves to it, Nigeria will be okay. But where negative thinking is entrenched in so many minds, that we are simply not prepared to see the good things in our nation that other people are seeing. I'm not saying economy is 100% healthy, but comparatively, we're doing fairly well, and the government of Nigeria under President Muhammadu Buhari is doing as best as it can to ensure that that sort of degeneration and economic crash that we are seeing in some countries, including on our continent, that doesn't happen here. So God willing, nothing of that nature will come here, but economy will continue to get better because we are increasingly diversifying the economy. This country's economy had been, in the past, largely been dependent on oil. This country today gets a lot more money, makes a lot more money from non-oil sectors than it does. In fact, ICT sector alone today brings in 3 times as more money to the economy, 3 times more money than oil.
All over the world, meaningful development cannot take place in an atmosphere of chaos and anarchy. Thus, a secured environment is necessary for peace and sustainable development. Despite the successes recorded in 2022, Nigerians are optimistic of an improved security in 2023.
Things will get even better than they are now because looking at the military acquisitions that are going on under President Muhammadu Buhari, he inherited an air force that had less than 5 aircraft. Today we are talking about 40, and we are expecting dozens and dozens of fighter aircraft. We are expecting drones of various makes. Drones that not only do surveillance, but are armed and can carry out missions, against known targets and all of that. So these are game changers in the ongoing fight against cases of crime, terrorism, and all of that. We're seeing the back of Boko Haram now, but challenges of particularly banditry, of kidnapping, cattle rustling, and they're being tackled head-on as well.
These expectations are not limited to security, economy, or politics only. Nigerians are also looking forward to better health care, where cancer treatment, for instance, can be affordable by all. The responsibility of nation building is not for government alone. All hands must be on deck towards making Nigeria greater and better. Our focus on Weekending today will be on expectations for 2023.
Interesting. Listening to the Special Assistant on Media to President Muhammadu Buhari talking expansively on what Nigerians can expect in 2023 and also our attitude. We learn and we have imbibed and continue to inculcate in others that attitude of gratitude. When you're always in a grateful mood, you achieve more and you pass on good vibes to people. On this very special day, the first day of January 2023, and we're looking at our expectations for 2023. We want to now take a look at food sufficiency. But first, let me introduce our guest who is here. Happy New Year, Prof. Professor John Kennedy Opara is the chairman of the CSS Group. Very familiar face. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Emma. Happy New Year to you and entire NTA and to our viewers. I wish you a wonderful and prosperous New Year. This year shall be better than last year. And I pray above all that Nigerians will enjoy this year. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. So food sufficiency. Let's see this.
Agriculture has always been at the front burner of the development of any nation from inception. In Nigeria, it accounts for about 35% of employment opportunities. Successive governments developed policies to arrest the challenges in the sector, which is critical for the country's economic growth and development. The goal is to re-establish the success experienced in the 60s. Then, Nigeria had enough to feed its population and excess for export. Today, it's almost impossible not to make reference to the oil boom that truncated the sector.
We make reference to the past because Nigeria's economy used to be purely agrarian. We had nothing else but agriculture. So we lost it because we abandoned agriculture for oil. And then instead of using whatever we got from oil to harness our agriculture, we began doing other things. And then unfortunately also, there is a lot of corruption. A lot of people simply misused the opportunities that we have.
The present administration has been proactive in its bid to diversify the economy away from oil. To achieve this, it must find solutions to the challenges stalling the sector. These include lack of integration into the value chain, insufficient funding, poor infrastructure, policy somersault, lack of modernization and mechanization, to mention but a few.
Now we have threats, that affect productivity, from COVID-19 to insecurity, and now this flooding, which has taken center stage. To be able to get out of it all, we need to incentivize the farmers to learn to do farming all year round, to also deploy climate-smart agriculture, to deploy also a system of crop intensification that requires very little chemical inputs, like fertilizers and all that.
A number of policies and interventions have been introduced to fully maximize the potentials of the sector. The Anchor Borrowers Program is one of such interventions. It has improved the fortunes of rural farmers appreciably. The CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, confirmed that national output of rice has moved from about 5.4 metric tons in 2015 to over 9 metric tons in 2021. This, however, has not reduced the price of the agricultural produce in the market.
Price hike has got so many things bringing it about. One of them is the purchasing power of even the naira. You see, the exchange rate to the dollar is such that everybody, imports most of the things that they use, even the chemicals that we use, and even the components of our fertilizers are imported, and then we buy in dollars. So what is happening in the market is that the production cost has to be at least met, or the farmer has to break even, and then we must make profit.
Some analysts say Nigeria has been unable to convert its enormous comparative advantage in the production of several agricultural primary produce to competitive advantage in the global market as a result of supply chain constraints. Poor packaging and labeling, poor storage facilities, and poor preservation techniques have also been identified as challenges.
We are feeding many of these countries informally. They are not rejecting it. The conditionalities that we get from global gap, I think, are deliberate, because some of them come to buy these things themselves from somewhere and then export them there. Some people even say that they don't want Nigerian rice, they want imported one, whereas the imported one may be a 10-year production. What we produce in our farms is that current year, but people say they prefer the imported one.
When President Buhari said Nigerians should consume what is produced locally, the idea is to discourage importation, reduce pressure on the exchange rate of the naira, and grow the economy. The ease of doing business in Nigeria is gaining global recognition, and emerging commercial farming in Nigeria will lead to food security and sufficiency in Nigeria. This will put the country in a good spot to engage and integrate fully into the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
And it is Nigeria's chance to be the giant of Africa in all ramifications, because there are so many competencies that we can really improve on. And then we look at the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria and allow each zone to really expand its area of competence and do it very well, feed itself, and then send the surplus out to sell. We have had so much informal trade. In this hemisphere, Nigeria has been responsible for feeding most of the countries. If you go to Dawano market, for instance, you find so many trucks going up to Timbuktu, Niger Republic, and the corridor to Ghana is also very open. we take all kinds of things there, but informally. So when we start to do it formally, we will be able to participate very well in AFTA.
The dream of every Nigerian is for the country to produce enough to feed its citizens and the surplus for the export market.
You're watching Weekend Deal. There are things that make a country's people galvanize and accelerate their activities so that they can make gainful and positively impactful progress, not just in the country, on the continent, but in the world as well, on the global stage. Professor John Kennedy Opara, you heard it all. There's so many challenges that we seem to be facing, but all over the world, on the African continent, people eat.
Yes.
Successes are being recorded. Why are we still talking about the challenges we're facing in putting food on the table of every Nigerian after 62 years?
Thank you very much. Part of what I want to establish is that nobody arrives at the destination he did not prepare for. In other words, challenges are meant to be faced, conquered, and you move on. And I always say to people, it is only those who have prepared for the challenges of today that can face their tomorrow. As a nation, insecurity is here, flood, so many things. But then what have we done to be able to mitigate, to be able to work against it, to be able to succeed? Every advanced country in the world today is a country that have conquered their challenges and are able to move to the next stage. And I believe we have the capacity, we have the strength to be able to meet our own challenges. Insufficiency of food, for example, is the catalyst that leads to so many things eventually. When the country cannot meet the needs of their populace in terms of food, what are we talking about? You see that there will be challenges. People can stay actually for a few days, a few hours, as if they are praying, maybe they are fasting. But the moment that is over, what next? Are you going to tell them there's no food? Even children, they will revolt in the house. And to sustain the economy of the nation, the country must be able to provide food on the table for the poor masses. And it is everybody's responsibility to be part of this process to help the nation achieve this. Nigeria have very glorious records that one can look at and ask, what are we waiting for? For example, Nigeria in Africa is the highest producer of rice paddy in Africa. We are doing almost 10 million metric tons of rice paddy in Africa. We are the highest consumer of rice in Africa. We are the highest importer of rice also in Africa. What a record. But we have to do something.
Okay, but with the closing of the borders, the importation has stopped.
Yeah, but you see, people still smuggle these products. That's why you see rice went as high as 50,000, 40-something thousand. You can imagine. We are the giant of rice production in Africa. What are we showing to people? What do we need to do? We must increase the desire, the motivation of people to go into farming. And sincerely too.
Okay, are you saying we don't have enough farmers?
Honestly speaking, we have compared to our population, we have very few people. In CSS, for instance, we have trained almost 6,000 youths, compared to almost how many million youths in this country today. And when you train these people, you empower them and then help them to be able to achieve what you want. Look at maize. For instance, South Africa for a very long time was number one highest maize producer in Africa, with about almost 10 million metric tons. But Nigeria is doing almost 12 million metric tons of maize. And yet, we are still importing maize. And yet,
why?
Because the quantity of maize required by the populace to meet the needs of the people is far more
than what we're making.
Same thing in rice paddy. So whatever you're producing, you are not able to meet the needs of the population of the country.
We are here, we are competent. Is to manage that competence.
Yes.
Let everybody hold and own their skill and learn what is necessary.
Absolutely.
Can we delve into agricultural extension?
Yes.
We have come to learn that is also very vital to the support system that agriculture needs in Nigeria, so that we can eat affordably, so that we can purchase and eat well. Tell us about that.
Thank you very much. Agricultural extension is very key. We need to empower the people who will serve as agricultural extension officers. they go to ensure that the trained farmers are doing what they're supposed to do. And
What you're doing by
yes,
training young people,
yes.
can we term that agricultural extension as well?
Yes, we also train the trainers. We call them train the trainers. You can train them to empower them to go to the local governments and train other people. In fact, that's why every youth graduating from our farm, for instance, we give you a tablet. Why? Because most of the lectures and the practical things we do are connected to the tablet. So when you get back to the farm as an extension officer, you can make reference to the records. Even if it's connected to the phone, wherever you are, you can connect back to us. And there are so many things we can actually achieve. Look, I feel so sad when I look at the prices of things. For instance, look at fish, for example. Nigeria as a nation, we consume 4.5 million metric tons of fish yearly. And we are producing less than 1.5 million metric tons of fish. Meanwhile,
So we consume four times
what we are producing. Now, every living Nigerian, you can become a fish farmer. At the back of your house, you can start fish farming. And at the end of the day, think about it. How much does it cost to buy a juvenile? About 26 naira.
We have a message here. Let me tell you what it says. When you reach us, which we'd like you to do, let us know who you are and what part of the country you are reaching us from, so that Prof can be specific in his response. He said we should talk about the insecurity that is affecting farmers, that is such a negative impact that is affecting the outcomes.
Yes. Thank you very much. That is very true. Insecurity is a major challenge, and security is everyone's responsibility. How? If you look at the level of insecurity today, is because of lack of job. If every youth is engaged, is empowered, they won't have time. The whole environment will be secured. Think of it like you have about 100,000 youth in a small village or in a small community, and then all of them are well employed. Their responsibility will be to protect their place of assignment or where they are working. The criminals in our midst, in our society, are known to us. They are not foreigners. They didn't import them. They are living with us. And so when we are gainfully employed, you see that it becomes our responsibility to do local policing. We know this man, he leaves in the morning, what does he do? We know this one's office. We know this, then we go, what are you doing? You report to security agents and then we start. So that is why it's important to empower, strengthen and encourage the youth. And when you empower them, you help them to stand, then they can help to police their local environments.
We are going to continue our conversation. At this time, there's an ideal situation that every patriot in Nigeria yearns for. We could easily say is the Nigeria of our dreams. When our elders sometimes tell us of some things they've enjoyed in this country, we look with awe, as in some people could actually go as far as saying, really? But let's see this from Francis is Stable, the Nigeria of our dreams.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. I have a dream.
After 59 years, this historic and classical masterpiece by late Martin Luther King Jr. has remained evergreen on the minds of all and sundry. However, 20 or 50 years from now, where would Nigeria be? We have heard that there is an American dream. What is the Nigeria of our dream?
Nigeria of my dream would be a Nigeria where there will be peace and stability, there will be unity. A Nigeria where everybody can be able to go to hospital in Nigeria and get medical attention. And a Nigeria, more importantly, that will become a permanent member of United Nations.
I want to see a country that is secure. I want to see a country that is prosperous. I want to see a country that can feed its citizens and export to the world. I want to see a country where leadership have people as its central focus. But with all rights come responsibilities. I, as an individual, will begin by not throwing trash outside my car's window. I'll believe by making sure I respect traffic light.
I'll use myself as an example. I didn't grow up with silver spoon. My parents are petty traders, but it was through the Nigerian government, good governance, when Governor Jakonde was governor of Lagos State, that allowed someone like me from the poor area in Kwara State, from Ajashepo, growing up in the ghettos of Lagos, to get a scholarship to go to medical school and then become a professor of neurosurgery and become one of the world-renowned neurosurgeons. And now to be recognized 30 years later by the Nigerian government as one of the citizens desirable of national honors, which is the commander of the Order of the Niger. We need to be aiming for in Nigeria that any child, regardless of background, regardless of ethnic, religious, or any other creed, should have an opportunity to illustrate and really express their highest potentials. That's the Nigeria of my dream.
According to John Maxwell, one of the most famous leadership experts, everything rises and falls on leadership.
Historically, if you go through the struggle a lot of people went through to see that Nigeria gained independence, and looking at where we are today, I can assure you that the narrative is lackluster. In some instances, when you see the happenings in Nigeria today, some would tell you that our founding fathers could be reeling in pain, could be turning in their graves, because this really wasn't what they were looking forward to.
Some health experts have argued that 62 years after Nigeria's independence, the country has no healthcare management system of our dream, as the current system is still plagued by strikes, unhealthy professional rivalry, and poor working conditions.
The most important thing that we need to be focusing on now in our healthcare system is healthcare insurance. If we can get deep penetration of healthcare insurance in this country, where 80 to 90% is covered, it takes away out-of-pocket expenditures. Because someone feels, if some people in this country, you fall sick, and that could bankrupt you. Because all of a sudden, all your savings are going towards paying hospital bills. If we can get NHIS to actually spend most of the money that's invested in NHIS towards providing coverage for most of our citizens, I think we would have gone a long way.
The process of birthing a great country starts with planning and taking concrete steps to actualize the plans. Interestingly, Nigeria's economy has experienced varying cycles of growth, stagnation, and some development in the past few years.
I want to see a productive economy. We have largely become consumers. Our economy is largely import substituted. Literally everything you buy in the supermarket, go and check. Where does the recipe come from? Most of these things are imported. Now, if the world is just coming to dump its produce in your own country, how can your local currency favorably compete with the international currency for the right or for the wrong reasons?
The key word is diversification. The oil discovery is a curse and a blessing to Nigeria. Well, we have a lot of other potentials in this country that we should develop. If you look at the agricultural sector, if you look at the tourism sector, if you look at all the raw materials, minerals that we have in this country that have not even been touched. Diversification of our economy is very important. Number two, we also need to provide ease of doing business. We need to make sure that we can attract international investors to this country. So to tackle that, security must be fixed.
While transportation, logistics, and trade are all interlinked in such a way that efficient transport services are a prerequisite to achieving greater productivity, Nigeria, like other developed economies, need to start working towards achieving full implementation of a multimodal transport system, as well as making it more attractive for private investors. A great and prosperous Nigeria is possible. The time to start is now.
The Nigeria of our dreams. We have also talked about earlier, Prof, about attitudinal change. And someone here has mentioned that besides restructuring some areas of the loan schemes, people need to restructure their mindset. Okay, Nongo Tehemba Simon from Benue State says he's very proud of what you're saying. He can align with your direction and your commentary. He says he likes what NTA is also doing with this program. He's also agreeing with the last message that a lot of the resources did not get to the actual people who needed it. We're getting this from Kotongora in Niger State. It says that Nigerians should be unified. Nigerians should look out for each other, be your brother's keeper. Lift as you rise, lift up the next person. That sometimes our challenges go beyond agriculture, food, housing, and provision by government. It's from one person to another, that how you regard your neighbor, it tells on how you will treat them and other Nigerians in general. We thank you for that. Prof, we're about to wrap up our interview. Give us your final words on this new year. A very special day for us and a real privilege to be here.
Thank you very much. For me, while I was praying, I hear the Lord say to us, Nigerians, get up, move forward. We have a lot of opportunity and God is on the other side. The stage is available to every man, but for the moment. Nobody occupies the stage forever. We must love one another. We must show that God created us to achieve a purpose. Nobody's going to stay here forever. If you remember that a time will come, a day will come, I will no longer be here. There won't be time. There won't be people that you're seeing now. They won't be around again. Then what next? Let me make an impact while I live. Let me affect the people that I meet every day. I don't really care where they are from. Whether they are from southeast, south, southwest, no. We are one. We must grow above ethnicity. We must grow above where we are today. We must see ourselves as people that God have created to make a difference. At the end of our stay on earth, God will ask us, how many lives did you impact? How many people have you touched? If we have touched no one, then we'll have no basis going back to him. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Prof. Kennedy Opara, Chairman, CSS Group. You're watching Weekend Deal. We will take a break. We urge you to stay with us. Keep your messages coming in. Tell us who you are and where you are reaching us from. And let's come back together. When we talk about expectations for 2023, we had ours, but we tried to find out from Nigerians what their yearnings were. Some people talked about the power sector. They talked about their dream to have constant electricity. They also let us know that many African countries have been able to make it happen, and their hope is that Nigeria succeeds in doing that one day. Let's see this package on the power sector.
The energy needs of the countries of the world are increasingly growing. An international projection reported that the energy dependence of the world is expected to rise by over 34% between 2002 and 2025, while that of developing nations will double this percentage. Presently, 76 million Nigerians of the Nigerian population are not connected to the national power grid. For those connected, power supply is a serious problem as approximately 90% of the total power demanded is not supplied.
It's not rocket science, but it's not easy to do if you've not, if you're coming from entrenched inefficiency. If you bring back that project management and monitoring and enforcement mechanism, you will be able to optimize the capacity we have now. All these figures we've spent in the power sector are not really figures well spent. We have a pen chart for throwing money at the problem, meaning you know there's a problem. Instead of diagnosing the problem, you think that just put money. It could be that beyond money, there's something that's going on here. The problem is a system leadership failure. When I was chairman, we gave about 213 billion to pay off some of the gas debts that were accrued before they came. And this government under President Muhammadu Buhari has given about 700 and something billion in the first phase, and many more billions have been put in. The question then is, how much has this yielded result? And the evidence is that it has not produced the kind of result that we desire.
The story of the power sector in Nigeria started with the first electric utility company named Nigerian Electricity Supply Company, established in 1929. By 1950, the Electricity Corporation of Nigeria (ECN) was established. By the year 2000, the National Electric Power Authority (NEPA) was in charge of the generation, transmission and distribution of electric power in Nigeria. In the late 2000s, National Electric Power Authority (NEPA) became a public liability company. The name was changed again from National Electric Power Authority (NEPA PLC) to the Power Holding Company of Nigeria (PHCN) in 2005. By November 2013, the privatization of all generation and 10 distribution companies was completed, with the federal government retaining the ownership of the transmission company. Notwithstanding this development, Nigeria has not been able to achieve electric power sufficiency.
What happened was that we did a wrong privatization. So we sold everything, Disco, Genco, everything privatized at the same time. And now we're realizing that, look, government has to continue to make investment. And that's the sad part of it, that the government is actually arguably spending close to what they were spending before they privatized.
Since the rural areas are far from the electricity grid and most currently do not have power, there is need for each area to become a little hub where they would produce their own power by whatever resource that was closest to them.
People argue that should we have only one national control center, Shobo, can't we have multiple grids? So one way is to regionalize the grid so that you have western grid, eastern grid, maybe northern grid, and so on and so forth. That makes sense. One of the advantages of that is that it reduces the vulnerability of the grid. So if you have a smaller grid looped in, you minimize those losses. You also create incentive for competition. If eastern grid is poorly managed, it doesn't have to affect western grid. It doesn't have to affect northern grid. The only disadvantage is that in the short term, some people will be worse off where you have weaker grid. States can generate their own power, which they have. Which I licensed Lagos, Port Harcourt generating company, which they later sold to a private sector. Akwa Ibom has Ibom Power. Edo has some interest in Azura. So Nigerian states can have generating capacity.
Today, most Nigerian businesses that can afford to do so run one or more diesel fuel generators to supplement the intermittent power supply. In fact, statistics from Africa Check reveals that Nigeria has 100 million generators in private hands.
If everybody puts the generator on, the noise pollution is very high. It affects productivity, the environmental pollution in terms of health and its impact. People talk about the black soot in River State and Port Harcourt arising from gas flare and other, oil-related businesses. So, a nation on generator is a nation on pollution. That's what killed the textile industry in Kaduna and most of the northern up to Asaba and southern part of Nigeria. Why? Because they are dependent on power. These are machinery-dependent production.
While looking at the power sector, there is something that Nigerians expect in the build-up to the Nigeria of all our dreams, the dreams of over 200 million people. And that's why we have brought that package, a feature package by Francis Ogbe, to throw more light and open our conversation on the power sector outlook for 2023. Dr. Engineer Odowu Oyebanjo is here with us to address that. Doctor, how are you doing? Welcome to Weekend Deal.
Good morning, Gemma.
And why I'm adding doctor to engineer is because you've just completed your PhD in power systems in Manchester, United Kingdom. Now, power systems, power outlook, 2023, Nigerians are very, very optimistic. And they want to really build that Nigeria of our dreams. And they believe that power plays a very integral role in that.
Certainly, this is the aspiration of all. There is not going to be any kind of industrialization or economic development without power. And that is why one of the best legacies that we have in the power sector is the Presidential Power Initiative, which is a government-to-government collaboration with between the federal government of Nigeria and the government of Federal Republic of Germany in collaboration with Siemens of Germany. So what we call the Siemens project. So
but before we go there, tell us what we have on ground. What necessitated this merger, this partnership? Because we just heard Dr. Amadi say that a lot of money, trillions of naira, has been pumped into the power sector. And we've been working assiduously to improve power in Nigeria for over 20 years. I know that past administrations under the democratic dispensation we have run uninterrupted for a while have focused on power. And we heard him say amounts have been put in that direction. So at what point did we say, let's go the PPI way? How did this partnership birth?
Okay, so this PPI came to birth of the conversation between President Muhammadu Buhari and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, the former German Chancellor, on August 31, 2018, on how Germany and Nigeria can collaborate in the area of power sector improvements. So the last 20 years or so that you have talked about in the power sector has led the country into a situation where you have installed capacity of generation to be 13,000. So please take note of the numbers, 13,000 installed capacity. And the transmission operationally can get out 5,500
Are we
megawatts.
there? Are we there?
5,500.
Consistently there?
Before.
Okay, before.
So take note of the numbers. 13,000 is what you have as the source. Then 5,500 operationally.
Sometimes.
And then to the consumers, the peak we have gotten so far is around 3,500 megawatts. So if we look at that, 13,000 from the source, 5,500 going through, then 3,500 getting to all of us in our homes, our offices. So there is this imbalance, misalignment. So how do you fix this misalignment? Then the plan is to raise, first of all, the transmission and to 7,000 megawatts, so that this 7,000 megawatts can also get to all of us consumers. So that's the plan for the first phase of the PPI. The second phase, we now had 4,000, so it takes 11,000 through the transmission network and it gets to consumers the same 11,000. And in the final phase, we are now going to have more generation, renewable energy systems, conventional power systems. We are going to now raise the total capacity to 25,000 megawatts, end to end. So the generation will be 25,000 megawatts. The transmission will be able to carry 25,000
and distribution as well.
And then the consumers will have the 25,000 megawatts. By that time, we will all be smiling.
Let me shake your hand this new year, Bear. I like this talk. I love this talk. I love this talk. This is Nigeria of our dreams.
Thank you.
Let us get to the nitty-gritty. How soon?
Yeah, the first thing that I have to say is that if you have, and I know you have been aware of what's going on in the power sector, Nigerians are also aware. This year alone, before May 2023, we will have 1,320 MVA of capacity of power that will be unlocked in the Nigerian power system. That's coming from the 10 power transformers that Siemens has already delivered in the country, as well as additional 10 mobile substations that will be coming. This will give us 1,320 MVA of capacity that will be unlocked in the Nigerian power system. This will be distributed all over the country.
You've told us about accessibility soon. Let's talk about affordability. Already, the tariff has gone up. Some people are groaning. We have inflation in so many, everyone is talking about it, and we hear it's not unique to us. But in spite of that fact, combine that with other out-of-pocket expenses, many people have costs to frown more than they smile. When you now provide us more power, 25,000 across board, generation, transmission, distribution, what is it going to cost us? Is it free?
No, as you know, if you have a product that is available and you have it in abundance, then the price goes down. Simple law of economics. So if as we provide more availability of power, tariffs will go down. So this is the aim, that we provide more of the commodity, you have the cost will naturally go down.
Good
one of the things that is so critical, which I believe will be part of the outlook for the power sector in 2023, is metering. So all customers need to be metered in Nigeria. You have the National Mass Metering Program that will continue.
But the president was hands-on on that.
Oh yeah, so this will be continued in 2020. But for all of this to happen, you need generation. So we have to solve the critical issues in generation.
Tell us.
Okay, so first and foremost, there are commercial and regulatory issues. So all of these have to be attended to. And I believe this year we'll also look into that. You have contractual issues between the generators and the gas suppliers. Predominantly, power in Nigeria is from gas sources because we have abundance of gas.
What about security? We've had issues where people go and vandalize transformers and all of that. How are we going to work? We need to be proactive in our thinking.
Yeah, we do. You see a lot of technology-driven solutions that we will be delivering. But when there is power, you have a situation whereby people go and spread their cloth on an electric wire. It's because power is not there. So when we make power available, the people will be the custodian of the assets. They are going to guard the asset jealously, having come from little or no amount of power supply to near constant availability of power. Then all of these things will disappear, visibility will be there, and you see, so we have to look at...
But we used to have a system where if somebody attempts to steal anything electric, the person will just get electrocuted. Isn't that the best kind of security that we can bring to the fore?
Electricity provision has to be safe. And yes, it is true that people get electrocuted if they go and try to steal or vandalize electricity infrastructure. Worldwide, this happens. But for us, our key focus will be looking at the gas supply system. What is the status of our gas supply system, the infrastructure? Also, we look at the transportation of the gas to the generating plants. So we have to deal with the infrastructure problem. And now for the generating plants themselves, we have to look at their statuses. We want to know what are you able to deliver and what are the problems with the machines and what can you actually deliver to the people.
Sometimes some people have celebrated President Muhammadu Buhari as a president of continuity. How hopeful are we that the PPI project will continue? Does all this success we expect, does it rest on its continuing, or will the project be finalized by May?
No, this project is in 3 phases. It's between the government of Nigeria and the government of Germany. So the Presidential Power Initiative is something that should be stuck to. It should continue. Development of power system takes quite some time. So gone are the days when people just say that by December 2023 we are going to get 10,000 or 40,000 megawatt from the blues. No, but it takes time to develop power systems. It takes time to build transformers, to build substations, to install them, to energize them, and then for people to start feeling effect. But if we continue the path we are now pursued, I think we are going to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Now talk to Nigerians in this new year. I'm the one that is so fired up. I don't know if they're as excited as I am about what I'm hearing here today. Tell them what they can expect in the next few months and weeks, talking about power and a new fresh outlook for 2023.
Yes, certainly. Throughout various districts and states and distribution areas in Nigeria, we are certainly going to install different ratings of power transformers. We already have one in Abuja and also another here in Abuja and Abuja being installed. We will have in other parts of Nigeria transformers that are going to be installed. This will unlock capacities, and also following that, we'll have the installation of 10 60 MVA mobile substations. So these mobile substations are like plug and play. So you connect them to the transmission line, it provides power immediately to the people.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Did we say Happy New Year?
Thank you very much. You did.
I did? Yeah. Did you tell us Happy New Year back?
Thank you very much.
Dr. Engineer Idowu Oyebajo, Chief Technical Officer at Federal Government of Nigeria Power Company of Nigeria Limited, the SPV implementing the Presidential Power Initiative, PPI. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
It's going to be a great 2023. Thank you for coming on Weekend Deal. Well, the countdown for 2023 has already started, and Suleiman brings this for us. How did it go, Sule?
Central Park is a unique culture garden within the central area, where even on ordinary day you come to have your pleasure and we give you all the best service because of all our facilities we have. But today is a different day entirely. We all gather here for the eve of the crossover night as our usual venue. We are going to have a fireworks here, right here this evening to thrill all and the people we are having here.
Hey, Abuja, I want to ask you something right now. Are you ready? I love you, Abuja. I love you so much. Yeah. Take me there. Are you ready now?
What does it feel like to be among this crowd this evening? I'm actually so excited to be able to see the end of the year and to be able to see another year, 2023.
What's up? Let's go. Let's go, what are you saying? Central Park. Let me say you know this one. Let's go, what's up? We are coming. 2023. We are coming. 2023. 2023.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Let's go. Whoa.
I'm expecting a very good life and expecting to be very, very happy in 2023.
2023, as you know, is an election year, and new government will come in, so there will be change of policies. We expect the new government to move a whole lot of people out of poverty.
Yes, it's very amazing. This is the number 10 years in Nigeria, so it's special for me also. So it's very amazing people, very amazing city, and we hope all the best for the next year for Nigeria.
Well, I'm expecting that everything I have was accomplished. I should be able to accomplish in 2023. I'm so excited to be given an opportunity to start over and to make amends of all the mistakes I've made and to do things I wasn't able to do in 2022.
Talk to me. Straight.
Interesting. Wow. Very exciting indeed. People were just, excited about the year. their aspirations, their objectives, and then again, all the preparation that government at all levels and citizens, even the private sector, are making to ensure that we have the Nigeria of our dreams. You just heard about the plans, accelerated plans in the power sector, and it's happening in different sectors in Nigeria. We're going to smile. Just stay focused, stay optimistic, stay positive, and always try to impact something positive on those around you. Now, how did it happen in the other countries of the world? Do you have cousins in China, Japan, United States, London? Wow. So let's do the research. He brings this for us. It was happening at midnight yesterday in different parts of the world. Have you seen our cake? Yes, we say big thanks to Rainbow Touch Cakes. And she's also here with us. She'll cut the cake with us and perhaps just tell us what went into putting this awesome colors together. And her name happens to be Thelma, the woman at the helm there. She did this for Weekend Deal. Hey, the beautiful cake. And it's time to meet the baker. Her name is Ine Thelma Ako. Happy New Year, Ine.
Happy New Year.
Or should we say Happy New Year, Thelma?
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
This is a splendid cake. Wonderful. And no doubt it's going to be delicious.
Yeah.
For this new year, talking about Nigeria of our dreams, how do you reflect that in what we see here right now?
When you look at the cake, the first poppers are the stars. We're trusting God, to help us out of the ashes into the stars, into the starlights, spotlights, of the world. We're expecting, the wealth of the nation revamped. That's the color gold there. It just represents, wealth.
Interesting.
We are a wealthy people. No matter what has happened to us, the God that has sustained us, that has kept us, is able to, revamp the wealthy place of our nation.
Interesting.
Nigerians.
And as we all cut the cake together, people from different parts of the country, Edo, Akwa Ibom. Bye-bye.